A Klingon globfly is similar to a mosquito. Apparently, wild elephant is another term for rogue. And Stan Riga is the funniest performer ever. Oh, you never heard of him? Hello, everybody. It was because he's from the 23rd century. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. I'm not the funniest performer, that's for damn sure. Today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 2, Episode 4, The Outrageous Okona, story by Len Mention, Lance Dixon, David Landsberg, and teleplay by Burton Armus. Interesting name there. Directed by Robert Becker. This was December 12th, 1988. Where were you? Hello, Sirach Lofton. What's up?
Jeez, that's a lot. Those are a lot of writers on that one.
I know. You'd think that this episode would reflect that. Or maybe it does.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they took the story from somewhere else, one of those things, and I'm not sure. Written by, teleplay by. Okay.
It can't be a coincidence that this guy's last name is Armus, though. That was the creature that killed Tasha Yar.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, like Bolians were named after director Cliff Bole. Maybe Armus was named after Burton Armus. And Nagilum was named after whoever it was, Mulligan, if you remember that anecdote.
Right.
Anyway.
This Next Generation is just full of little hidden clues.
Yeah. Well, and Picard has a lionfish. Is it a lionfish? In his ready room that's named after David Livingston. It's called Livingston, his fish.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I think it's a...
Picards fish is David Livingston.
Yeah, it is... I think it's a lionfish or something like that. Some angry-looking fish. Right now people are like yelling at the screen of what it is. Anyway, what'd you think of this episode while I look this up? Oh yeah, it is a lionfish. Okay.
That lion-ass fish. Tell the truth.
Oh, and speaking of fish, Data thinks that fish are amphibians. Did you notice that? He says...
No.
There was a line about when he was talking to the comic. By the way, there were some pretty interesting guest stars in here. I don't know if you noticed that.
I noticed one.
Who is that?
I thought it was Terry Hatcher was in this episode. Was it?
Yes, it was her.
Yeah, I love Terry. I love me some Terry Hatcher. She is gorgeous.
Me too. When I was a kid, she was
Desperate Housewives.
She was at the top of the top for me as a kid. I found her to be very charming.
Yes, I really think she's beautiful. And this was I was super surprised to see her in this role because before they actually gave her more screen time and they just kind of flashed by her in the beginning, I was like, man, that transporter chief was hot.
I know. And then you look more closely and you're like, wait a minute, is that Terry Hatcher?
Yeah, that's exactly what I had to rewind it, and I was like, that's Terry Hatcher, because she wears a different hairstyle later on, but this is the long curly hair, kind of almost like Marina Sirtis's hair in the first season, similar. But the big hair, the big curly hair, and I was like, man, she is so hot. And then when the guy proceeds to talk to her, and I was like, oh, okay, she's not just some background super hot actress that was just in the background. She's actually got lines in this episode, and they're going to feature her. And then I was like, hey, I'll trade her for O'Brien. O'Brien, you can do something else, man. You don't need to be doing this.
What did I do? He says. Well, how should I know?
The warp core needs some maintenance. You can do all the pipeline stuff.
Go roll up your sleeves and fix something. Hey, here's a quick story about Terry Hatcher. quick story.
Okay.
So I was definitely in love with her when I was a young fella. And then several years ago, I was working in a high-end restaurant in Westwood, California. Strzok knows it well. That's where UCLA is, in Westwood. And one day, Terry Hatcher walks in, and she is with Baron frickin' Davis. Okay. UCLA alum, Golden State Warriors alum, of course, among other teams. And this was while he was on the Warriors. This was in the summer, so it was the off season. And I bring them into the back room so they can be alone. And I'm like, it's freaking Baron Davis. I was like so excited, you know. And anyway, the point is, she, you know, I kind of talk to them or whatever, and I give some kind of insider knowledge on like Warriors trade dealings or something. And he kind of looked at me like, how do you know that kind of stuff? But it's because I'm a big sports nerd. And if you listen enough, you can hear stuff. And she goes off to the bathroom, and he calls me over, and he starts like just talking to me, you know, and he and I are kind of going back and forth about this inside kind of stuff. I'm, you know, listening in pretty intently. I think it was like July. And yeah. Because July 8th was when some trade could go through. So it was before that. Anyway, so she comes back out of the bathroom, and I kind of was like, you know, I kind of wanted her to leave us the fuck alone. I was kind of like, can you, and I was saying, he's like, how do you know this? I'm like, oh, I'm from the Bay Area, you know? And then she's like, I'm from the Bay Area too. I'm from, I think it was Campbell or Los Gatos or adjacent. I think it was Los Gatos. And I'm like, oh, cool. And I turned right back to Baron. I was like, so anyway, Baron, and I'm talking to him. And then as I'm walking away, I realized, I'm like, man, 15-year-old Ryan would have kicked my ass that this girl is being so nice. And I'm like, okay, thank you. But I'm talking to Boom Dizzle right now, please. I'm talking to Boom.
Me and BD are talking to basketball.
Yeah.
If you just don't mind, if you get us to get another 5-10 minutes, we'll be
have
done
another
soon.
Pellegrino. I'm just in Boom. Anyway, so that was my painful day.
You probably made the wrong choice there. You probably made the wrong choice.
But Baron made the right choice.
Yeah, Baron made the right choice. I too, you know, had that same kind of crush on her, and you know, there were others in that time period that were like childhood crush times. You know, that's when you have those childhood crushes.
But the point is, she was exceedingly nice and friendly, and I hope I didn't come off as rude or anything, but I was just like star-stricken by Baron Davis. But she was very nice and very friendly, and she seems like a wonderful person, and she nailed this role, which may have been one of her very first ever, I would think.
She nailed this guy. I thought that's what you were going to say.
What's up with this guy? Why was everybody falling under his spell so easily? It didn't work.
It's the ponytail. It's the ponytail. Oh. You need to grow out a ponytail. That's the key. It's you have like a rogue kind of Braveheartish ponytail, leathers on. You know, I don't know. I can't tell you, but I can tell you I was really happy right off the top to see how jealous Riker was. that was the highlight of the opening scene for me, was just seeing Riker saying, I can tell you one thing, nothing wrong with his eyes. He's got great eyesight. Like, okay, thanks for the observation. I guess he beat you to talking to the transporter chief, because you were probably had your eye on her too.
Yeah.
What else did he say about him? He says, he mentions his eyesight and something else, but he has excellent vision and a healthy libido, according to Riker.
Yeah.
And so, but that's a healthy libido, according to Riker. To me, that's like that's a toxic level of libido, bro. You can't even walk on the ship and just like say hi to somebody.
He was flirting with Wesley Crusher, even.
Yeah.
Like, he was just like, I want everybody to love me. I don't care if I'm going to have sex with them or not. I just want everybody to love. And how was he humping 3 people already in 1 hour? I thought, because I didn't remember how this ended, I thought he was going to have some kind of magic pheromone or something that made everybody like it. But no, he's just so freaking charming that he says 2 words and everybody just melts and says, all right, we can hump in 40 minutes. I'll be right back. And they're just like,
yeah.
What's going on here?
It was over the top. That part was over the top. That's again indicative of the kind of stereotypical situation that a chauvinistic man would like to see himself in. Like, yeah, I just walk into a situation and I get 3 girls the same day I was there. It's like, yeah, all right. Sure, everybody just follow.
I just pay a couple compliments. Yeah, it's still not. That's not.
No.
I don't know.
And the worst part is Riker's calling it a healthy libido. Like, yeah, that's what I strive for. That's why I take these pills. Extras in 5,000. Like, like when you watch those commercials with the athletes and they're like, it's great for your libido. Your woman will like it too.
Frank Thomas, the big hurt, right?
Yeah,
the big flirt.
So to me, it's like Riker's like, that's healthy libido over there. No, that's like toxic levels. Dude, calm down, man. We just got on board the ship. You were floating adrift to your peril or something.
Yeah, and why are they tolerating? Why are they tolerating? Why don't they just say, "Hey, calm down. You're coming with us." But they just sit there and watch him flirt. They're like, "Oh, look, there he goes." And at no point they were like, "Okay, that's enough, please. That's our transporter chief. We treat her and everybody with a level of respect. If you'd like to talk with her, maybe she'll be in 10 forward later, but for now."
Yeah,
but they just sat there
and on duty. There'll be a time for that. But can you follow us? Because we have to debrief you on what's going on. I mean, something, it was terrible for me and then he's in the bed with her in like the next scene. And I'm like,
barf.
This guy.
Yeah, but when Data was emulating that comic, I was thinking, good thing he's not watching this guy and emulating this guy. Like, because he does that. He'll watch somebody and learn from them. But I did want to mention, he did the fish thing that I was saying earlier. The one guy who, by the way, was a famous comic as well, Joe Piscopo. I didn't recognize him, but I looked it up and I was like, oh, I know that name. I recognize Joe Piscopo. Because I was like, this has got to be some famous guy because he's doing his Jerry Lewis impression. But he mentioned, something about an address. Then he says a briefcase in the shape of a fish, right? And then Data says, so the juxtaposition of gender and an amphibian briefcase are funny. So Data thinks fish are amphibians because when the guy said a fish briefcase, he replied with an amphibian briefcase. Somebody correct me. Like, I'm not the best scientist in the world, but fish are not amphibians. They're fish.
Yes.
Data needs to know this. Like, he should look it up in his head.
Yeah, I thought he had a whole database. But clearly, there was actually one line in this episode that referred to that I thought was funny. He says, have you seen any good-looking computers lately?" that was the line that he gave to Data when he was, trying to ask if he had ever made love to somebody. I think it was that was actually a good point too. He says, "Have you ever made love to somebody?" And Data's response was, "The act or the emotion?" And I thought that was like a great point to bring up, because this guy obviously doesn't really know the difference between the two.
Yeah, he said they're one and the same. I'm like, I don't know how people keep falling for you because these lines they're not working, man. I don't see it.
That's what I'm saying. Even the girl that even Terry Hatcher's character said to him when he first kind of came on to him, he's like, "Yeah, you probably say that to all the girls," like she wasn't impressed. And then he's like, "Yeah, but it's the way I say it and the conviction and all this other stuff." And it's like, that works? Because I guess I'm doing it totally wrong.
Barf. But I hope she got paid well because, she came home and her husband or whomever was like, "How was work today?" And she's like, "Dude, I had to just pretend some lech was hot all day. It was tiring, but I got a good paycheck for it." All right, cool. Fine. Well
Yeah,
done.
yeah. He kind of rubbed me. It was just too much. He was over the top. And actually, one of the things, because there's several things that upset me about it. Number one, as great as the wardrobe looks right here in this particular,
Yeah.
it looked too Robin Hood to me. I felt like, you know,
You know, Robin the Hood, everybody knows the Sublime album, Robin the Hood. You know, it reminded me of Ice Pirates. You ever see that old 80s movie,
okay,
Ice Pirates? That's what it reminded.
no, but I
When
can see you on the pirate kind of look. Yeah.
and he was in this character reprised by the same actor in Prodigy. If you remember, there were a couple episodes that they hired the
Oh
guy,
yeah.
but he had
Oh
an eye
yeah.
patch, and
And
then
I
he like
liked him in
jumps up.
Prodigy
Yeah,
though. I
same
actually
guy.
liked him better in Prodigy.
Now you know where it came from, and that it's such a bummer when you see these characters now on the new shows, but you haven't seen these old ones yet. You're kind of seeing them in reverse order, but now you can appreciate who they were reprising. This guy.
Oh, I totally remember his character in Prodigy. I mean, it was a standout performance because of the role being just almost as obnoxious, but it seemed to work better in animation than it does in real life because I was not convinced that he had the charm that they were trying to tell me that he had. It didn't seem to come
Mm-hmm.
across for me.
I think, and if I remember correctly, wait, let me pull him up. In as his Prodigy character.
Okay.
Check this out.
Which he plays the same thing, like he's the same exact character, right? A merchant
Yeah.
ship captain. Yeah, but he's gotten old, and yeah, I remember that character.
Now, the other fun thing is, and his name was Thadian Okona. I always want to call it Okona because of how it's spelled.
Right,
But
me too.
he
Me
was
too.
also in not so he was in the 2 episodes of Prodigy, but he was also in Lower Decks, and I'm pulling that up right now as well. So the same guy, same character in Prodigy and Lower Decks. So there's, to my knowledge, there's only been one character ever that's been in Prodigy and Lower Decks, and it's this guy, originated in the Next Generation. So this was him in Lower Decks.
Oh yeah, wow.
Yeah, and this is him. And so Lower Decks takes place basically like kind of right after Next Generation ends. So you see he's younger there, but he's got the eye patch. And then later on, so the people from Lower Decks and Prodigy obviously spoke and connect because, 15 years later in the
Yeah.
Prodigy era, he still got that eye patch. And that eye patch is not consistent with the Next Generation. So clearly Prodigy and Lower Decks are talking with each other because it's consistent between the two of them.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
And so he did the voiceover work for both.
Yeah.
Wow. I bet he never thought he'd be working 25, 35 years later on the same show just based on that character. But that's Star Trek.
I'm just checking to confirm that he did the voice. I mean, I just assumed it was him because it sounded like him. He did the voice in both episodes of Prodigy, but I don't see it in Lower Decks. I'm not sure why. Everybody in the live chat and in the comments below, let us know why he's not. Was it because he didn't have any lines in Lower Decks? Maybe it's because he didn't have any lines.
Okay.
I don't remember. Let us know in the comments below, please.
I'm sure they still gave him a check for reprising his character, though. Um, you would not think that this character would be something that you would recall and bring back. But he wasn't, just because the story, I guess, was more lackluster than the character. I felt like the character was okay. He could have been really good. They just didn't give him enough to do. They just made him uh, too easy to figure out, and it wasn't dynamic at all. It was just very, you know, it was just remedial, in my opinion. There was no depth there. The only mystery was that he actually didn't sleep with somebody. And I think the moral of the story came at some point towards the end when he says, "See how a man gets a reputation." Um, to me, that was like the whole story was based around that principle that a man gets a reputation even though it could be based on falsities, on lies, or misunderstandings, right? So we assume that he was the father of the kid because he's sleeping with everybody else. So
Yeah.
right, and so that would be, I guess, the lesson is like, never judge a book by its cover. But is he really not like the book that we really think?
Yeah, this is more like don't judge chapter 12 by the first 11 chapters. We just saw you doing all this, home. Like,
seriously,
it's not like
you got 3 kids
here,
on
guy.
the ship now. I think he impregnated 3 women on this ship.
See how unfairly they targeted me for their judgment?
No.
Well, come on, man. So this is the one time you didn't do it, okay? Congratulations.
Yeah, you've got 3 people pregnant on the Enterprise just since you've been here.
Yeah.
Seriously. I don't understand why, we're not that far off. Okay, we were off by this one a little bit. Okay. But, we weren't that far off.
That just makes me think, that's a good point though, Struck. It just makes me think of what would have given this a little bit more depth is if there were somebody on the ship, let's say they kind of touched on it. Let's say Riker was super against this guy and was saying, and Picard was saying, well, we don't know what happened. We can't judge, and then Riker was saying, no, I know he did it. It's so obvious. I keep catching him in other quarters. And so then Riker or that person would have learned that lesson, and we can learn it through him of don't take it too far. But instead, you just kind of have Worf ambiguously growling at him and saying, I would love to. And you're like, do you mean fighting or? Because it looked like the guy walks right up to him and breathes in his face, and they look eye to eye. And we know how Klingons are. And, he growls, he's like, I would love to. And I'm like,
okay.
I don't know if you're being menacing here, but it's not working. It sounds like you're reciprocating.
Then Okona says, perhaps another time or something to that effect. Like,
yeah, with a wink and a slap on the ass.
I was like, what's going on here?
He's got a towel. He's whipping him with the towel.
Yeah. Okona's, like you said, he came on to everybody. Wesley, I was like, seriously, man, leave Wesley alone. He just got here. His mom's not here to kick your ass. And if she was, you'd probably be trying to sleep with her too,
Which reminds me, there was no Pulaski today. But you know what? Let's hop to our very quick break right now, because there was a moment that I thought of you in this one. It wasn't that moment we just mentioned, but we will discuss all of that and come right back. Where was Pulaski on the 7th rule?